Hello, everyone. I am Kanisha Grayson, founder and CEO of The Art of Applying, and I am here today with one of our amazing clients. This is her real face, as you can see, but we are not using her real name. So we're going to be calling her Christine today, just to give her a little bit more privacy, because her results were so good. We don't want y'all stalking her online. She's got to go to grad school and live her own life. Hello, Christine.
Hi, Kanisha. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. So, what are we celebrating today? Tell us your great results so far. Tell us about schools accepted and scholarships received.
Yeah, so I received a consortium fellowship. So I previously thought it was consortium membership, but it's consortium fellowship for UVA Darden, where I will most likely be in the fall. I was waitlisted a number of programs, just given for people who are watching the video, it is the tail end of the pandemic, hopefully. And so it was just a wild application cycle. I was waitlisted at the Northwestern JD MBA program and also waitlisted at NYU Stern, Dartmouth Tuck, and Georgetown Law. And I've yet to hear from a few law schools.
Okay, wonderful. So, Christine, you're a JD MBA applicant.
Yes,
So,
which was a process.
yeah, so that was a process. So, talk to us about that. What did you come in thinking you were going to be, and then how did you decide on JD MBA?
Yeah, so the JD part has not yet happened. It has not yet been actualized, but we're going to actualize it in the next few months. I know. But I came into the program thinking I was going to be a dual degree policy and MBA applicant. I come from a nonprofit background. I've done a lot of political advocacy. I care a lot about like the various issues that I've worked on. And so I was like, oh, this will be perfect. Started looking into policy programs. I was like, actually, I'm not interested in policy school. And also started to get more honest with myself about why I wanted the degrees that I wanted. And a part of it was I had a complex around applying to law school, given my statistics, because you see the class profile of different top law schools, and it is like, I was like, those are not my numbers. And so I was starting out, I was like, well, let me just, because this even seems like a lot, this like MPP MBA thing. So like, that seems like pretty good. So like, let's just go there. And then just getting in touch with myself through this process and being more honest with what I wanted and really wanted to go for. That sort of that was the bit for the JD.
Absolutely. So I want to jump into that. So for those of you who heard Christine refer to like, oh, those are not my stats, we will get into her stats very soon. So just hold tight. But first, I want to talk about, you said, I started looking into policy school and realized I didn't want to go to policy school. What specifically helped you know that it was law school you wanted to do instead of policy school?
I wanted to be a lawyer. And I had met a lot of lawyers through my work. I was someone I'd majored in, like a very pre-law undergraduate major. And people were always like, oh, like you should go to law school. And I was like, you just haven't seen my numbers. I never said that, but I was
like, but that's how you felt.
Yeah, that's like how I felt about it. But that was, and so in meeting different lawyers, it started to prickle back up into my psyche as something.
Yeah.
And as I was like looking into different policy programs, I also felt like, oh, a lot of these are very like internationally oriented. And I don't know. So I was like I was basically just looking at course catalogs, and
absolutely,
I was like, I mean, these sound interesting, but I didn't want to go to school for it necessarily.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I spend a lot of time helping people go the other way. A lot of people come to us saying they want to apply to law school, but they don't actually want to really be a lawyer. They just want to work on social issues. And I'm like, you totally belong in policy school. But clearly, if you know you want to be a lawyer, you have to go to law school. In general, there's some exceptions, but that's not what we're dealing with. Is the exceptions is we're dealing with, if you want to be a lawyer, you got to go to law school. All right, stats. So as you know, Christine, people really want to be able to stack themselves up next to you to be like, well, if she was able to get a full consortium fellowship to UVA Darden, and she also got waitlisted at all of these other schools, how might that work the same way or similarly for me if I work with the art of applying? So talk to us about whatever stats you feel comfortable sharing. I'm going to give you the full menu of things that people want to know. They want to know your age. They want to know, I mean, clearly you are Asian American, but like, what kind of Asian are you?
Yes.
They want to know, uh, your work experience. They want to know your, I would actually think we talked a good amount about this at the Art of Applying, and I don't know this for you, but like socioeconomic background or upbringing. Also, test scores, what you studied in college. Since you're wanting to not be super findable, let's not say where you went to college, but give us an idea of what kind of college you went to. Like, was it liberal arts or big college? GPA, the
Yes.
whole run
Yes, I know that.
down.
I know the menu. So my GPA was just shy of a 3.5, so not quite a 3.5,
Okay.
which, as many people know, that is not the 0.25. That is not the 25 percentile even of most top 14 law schools. I had a 165 verbal, 161 quant on the GRE.
Okay.
I had majored in like political philosophy, more or less. And for undergrad, I had gone to what I would self-describe as a New England, like a competitive private New
Yeah.
England.
Yeah. Understood. So those Swarthmore type schools, those little, yeah, Pomona College, but in New England. Understood. Okay. And then did you want to
Oh, right. And also we were talking about socioeconomic
Mhm.
background. I would say, depending on the time of my family, but we did not grow up with a lot of money, although we definitely are now like upper middle class, but
Mhm.
starting out, that was definitely not the case. It was more like lower middle class, and it's
Mhm.
just more recently changed. But first time navigating, like I don't have a lot of family connections for navigating graduate school.
Mhm.
I'm Korean American for the
Mhm.
flavor, if people are interested about the flavor or genre, but yeah.
Thank you for sharing your stats. So, Christine, what was the application process like before we started working together? What was hard? What wasn't working?
So before I worked with the Art of Applying, I had actually been starting to go to different MBA events. I had known about consortium before, and I just like went to a few of their events. There are a few schools in my geographic area, so I physically went to those schools. But it was very like it was very all over the place.
Mhm.
And it felt like it was a lot of information to dig through because I was having obviously a career crisis of what I wanted to do. And so I was not even settled necessarily on a degree.
Mm.
And so sorting through like that, and then also not knowing, like I didn't even know I had to like fix my resume. I just kind of assumed like you would, okay, like you write these essays, you get a good score. I like kind of very loosely knew about
Mhm.
it, but I was also very embarrassed about asking
Mhm.
people who I went to undergrad with, because of like when we were in school together, like even though in the US at large, like I would not say that my family is like lower
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
working class at this point, but like it when we were in school together, I was still in the bottom like financial bracket of my school, and so I was like very self-conscious about asking people, because it was like, oh, like do they, I mean, and also I don't think actually most of them would have known about stuff like consortium.
Oh,
So
absolutely not.
yeah. So, so at the beginning of the process, so like I signed up for the Art of Applying, and I also was part of Forte.
Mhm.
And I think both of those together, though, like ended up being really critical to me.
Excellent.
starting
So
to get
you,
a hold of things.
so you did Forte MBA launch.
Yes.
Excellent. And so what moved you from thinking about, okay, maybe I should go to grad school to deciding, yes, I'm going to apply. I'm going to join Forte MBA launch. I'm going to work with the art of applying. What moved you from that thinking about it to I'm going to go ahead and apply?
Yeah, so I started studying for the jury back in 2018. It was just like I was moving at a very slow pace, and like I was kind of generally moving. Like I had gone to, like public policy open houses and things like that, just sort of very
Mm-hmm.
vaguely getting a sense of things. But I didn't really feel like I had an action plan of what am I supposed to do, who am I supposed to talk to,
Mm-hmm.
and also feeling very isolated in the process. Like I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, I knew very loosely, like, oh, there are people from my undergrad who apply for these programs, but I would never hear about it until they got in. So it was like, I think wanting to find a community of people to navigate the process with, having clear ideas of like, what am I supposed to do at different points in the cycle? What are different feelings that might even come up, and like having other people to process that with. That was really.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wonderful. And so, how did you find the art of applying, and what inspired you to actually reach out and have a breakthrough call?
Yeah, I've watched a lot of these testimonial videos. And I feel like there was a blog where I remember getting emails for a while because I had thought about going to graduate school for a number of years. Like I like even when I picked my undergrad being like, I know I'm gonna go to graduate school,
Mhm.
so like I'll have a second round at this. So I had been watching the videos for a while, and then I think it's also for me the art of applying just really stood out because it was like founded by you,
Yeah,
and I like loved your personality and
thank you.
your general philosophy on like how you're approaching like the things that you're doing with the art of applying. I also thought that the other clients were really interesting, like the people who were getting into these programs, the wild cards, as I know you.
Absolutely.
So that was a really big part of it. And then also wanting to go with someone that wasn't going to tell me like, oh, because some consultants are very like, oh, like, before we really work together more seriously, like, I think you need this number,
Yeah.
or like, I need you to decide how many programs you're going to apply to up front, or like you're kind of matched with only one consultant, which actually wasn't necessarily something I was thinking about when I was picking who to work
Hmm.
with, but there were like certain things about working with other people that felt either very restrictive or sort of like, oh, like that sounds like a lot. And also because a lot of them aren't very community oriented. And
I
I
don't
think,
think any of them, besides the art of applying's uh, offer, has anything where you know who the other clients are. I think Forte MBA launch, of course. Management leadership for tomorrow's MBA prep program, of course. But those are nonprofits. I don't think that there is any other admissions consulting firm for graduate school that is like, yeah, we want our clients to know each other and support each other and like make friends and have a community. So yeah, that is something very different.
it was like an investment in myself. I knew that I like needed a little bit more of like a, like, okay, now you spent a lot of like money on getting something that you want.
Mhm.
And that I had like proactively decided I am going to find people who are going to help me get what I want, and I'm going to put myself in a position where I'm going to get what I want.
That's right. That's right. So let's talk about that. So you found the art of applying. It sounds like you're not sure how you found us, but you
I think like somehow on the internet, I feel like I've known about your business for like a long time.
somehow the internet.
Yeah,
Yes,
like the
that was
internet.
my yeah, beamed it to your brain. But no, of course, well, you found us somehow. Maybe you Googled something. We used to run a lot of Facebook ads in 2017 and 2018. So maybe you saw one of those. But anyway, you found your way onto our mailing list. You watched a lot of videos. You liked my personality. You liked the other clients, and you liked what made us different. Let's talk about the breakthrough call. I think you had your breakthrough call with me. So what was your experience like on the breakthrough call?
There was like a list of questions we were going through, but it was like, oh, okay, so like I have a sense of like these are the things that I should be thinking about. And that there's also going to be someone who is going to help me like sort of think
Mhm.
through different parts of this process. So And oh my gosh, I like forgot what you called the calendar event. Do you remember like when you
Oh, when
like, oh,
my
like made
the
this
day I
that
committed
you
to my
committed to like dreams?
the day I committed to my dream.
I know. And I was like, oh, that's so like, like I felt touched. Yeah, so
And you
that was
did.
yeah, so that was the breakthrough call.
Okay. And so at the end of the breakthrough call, I said, Christine, now that I have heard everything that's going on, I'm 100% confident we can help you solve all these problems. And I want to invite you into the Application Accelerator. And here's the tuition. Now, was it scary to make the leap to decide to work with us? You said it's an investment in yourself. What fears, doubts, or concerns did you have about paying a lot of money to get help to get into your dream schools?
I think it's just honestly that it was like a lot of money. It is probably the most I've ever invested in myself. Not to like also scare people away from it, but it's just more like it was something I was so not used to. Like I was so used to having to like just scrap like different things together to like make it work for me. Um, and so I think there was also this fear of like I mean truthfully like I didn't actually know anyone who had done
Absolutely.
art
You
of
just had to
applying, so it was like
you just had to watch the videos and be like, I hope those aren't hired actors from the internet, right? And
I know. But I don't know, I think it was just like during the phone call I had a really good sense, and just hearing about the approach of how like you have like the mindset coaches or you have people specifically working on the resume, and that it is functioning very much as like a team
uh-huh.
environment versus just like you're left to your own devices once you even start the program. And so like all of those factors, I think like that was very that was like what was reassuring, and that is what also helped me get over this
Mm-hmm.
fear of, and also because I mean people are getting full tuition, right? Like people are getting substantial, I got full tuition. So sorry, I am also people. Like those kinds of results I was not confident that I was going to be able to do on my own. And like obviously like Kanishi like worked with reapplicants, and I wasn't a reapplicant yet, but it was like I had already seen how the GRE was like dragging me down. And honestly, if I could go back in time, I would just like sit down for like 3 to 6 months and just get it over with. But like I had seen how like it's fine to be scrappy, but for me, I was like, I want to go. Like
Yeah.
it is time, and I need to be very sure that these are the things that I need to do, and like how should I talk about myself and all of those things. I wanted the full resource.
Absolutely. Would you say you wanted to accelerate your application?
I've died. Yes, I wanted to accelerate my application.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't think we actually do stop to think about the name of the program and the name of the pieces in the program. Like it is called Application Accelerator because it is supposed to help you get to your destination and get there faster and get bigger results than you might get on your own. Yeah.
100%.
Wonderful. Okay, so but you didn't have any fears or doubts or concerns about like, oh, this works for other people, but not for me.
I mean, there was some of it, right? Which was like, I was like, my GRE score, like, my GPA, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm Asian, like, um, which, it could, arguably like overrepresented minority group in, um, graduate programs. And so, for all those reasons, I was kind of like, let's just see how this goes. So I had some, I think, doubts about my own candidacy,
Mm-hmm.
and like a want for a lot of like external validation around that. So those were definitely real insecurities that I was
Mm-hmm.
dealing with at the start of this process. Yeah, but
Okay,
I mean, I was also like, I need to put my best foot forward.
absolutely.
Like, I was like, if I like, I just want to feel at the end of all of this that I really gave it my best shot. And then that is as much as I can ask for, like, yeah. So those were the feelings I had, like, going into all of it.
I love that. And as you know, Christine, I am in the search to buy a home in Austin, which is the hottest, most competitive market in the United States. And the reason I bring it up is I'm actually getting encouraged listening to what you're saying, where I'm like, you know what? That's how I need to approach buying a house, even though it's extremely competitive and exhausting and discouraging. And I don't have as much money. Like I have a lot of money, but I don't have as much money as the people coming from California, New York, and, moving to Austin. So I just hear you saying like, oh, I'll just do my best. And that's all I can hope for. And I'm like, it's actually encouraging me. So thank you.
I love that, Kanisha. I love that.
Yeah, I had to move Christine's interview earlier because I had to go rush and look at a house. And Christine, that house, as I was driving there, got sold. They were like, "Don't even come." And then it happened again later that day for another house. That's life. So this is the first of many, or not the first, but this is one of many challenging, hard, competitive things that you're going to do. Think about when you're in law school. And then think about after law school when you're competing for those really competitive clerkships or jobs. So you are developing great muscles, great resilience. So what was your favorite part about working with the art of applying? One thing I would just say, Christine, is that you really showed up in the program. I could basically assume that every monthly Q&A call that I hosted that I would see you there. You asked a lot of questions, and I feel like you were very in touch with your consultant and also knew other clients. Like, I really feel like you made the most of the program, which I really appreciate. What was your favorite part about being in the program and working with the art of applying?
Oh gosh, so many parts of it. I mean, I will say, like, I think, first of all, like, the team that you've assembled, Kanisha, I like really appreciate. I think just given the kinds of clients that the art of applying is like working with, it's like great to see that reflected in the consultants as well. So just even getting to know them honestly was so eye-opening. And like I feel like I like grew as a person as I was like getting to know some of the consultants, where it is some of it is also just life advice of like how to show up for yourself, right? This is the phrase that we love, like pick yourself. Um, and so even if it was like, okay, like let me go to this mindset call and like think about like, okay, what are some ways that I'm thinking about things that I'm thinking and how much of that is actually grounded in reality? Or I'm going to like the monthly Q&A calls and I'm like, okay, like this is like just another reminder that I am not doing this process by myself. Like there are other people who are, having their fears and, their activities. And I don't know, I love like the whole process that the team has put together. I think also the fact that within, like I could tell that like the people you've assembled are also very collaborative with one another. But like obviously people have their own specialties as well. And like those are drawn into the process as well. So it felt like I had like the support I needed. My consultant was very prompt, responsive. I also just feel like the team has been incredibly flexible in like working with me and like all of my applications, because I was like, I'm going to do policy school. I'm going to do law school. Like I'm going to do an MBA program. And never at any stage was someone like, oh, that's really unreasonable for you to do that. And so I think having that level of positive reinforcement from so many different parts of the program, that was just like such a good, it's hard to put monetary value on that. And I think because the consultants have such interesting life stories where you're like, oh, like you went to, I'm not going to say the school, but like you went to like a really great, like, prestigious MBA program. And now you were doing, like something that I would not have necessarily thought like, oh, you're going to go to that kind of program and like do that, have that kind of lifestyle or whatever. And so I think I was also having my own notions of like who belongs in these programs and like what are the outcomes from these programs, changing as I got to know people as well.
Absolutely. I think that one of the best things that happens at the Art of Applying is helping people lower the bar of what it means for like who goes to these programs, but also relax the standard for what it means you also do after these programs. Like I want you all to dream big. I want y'all to like pursue your dreams, but I also want you to know that like you can live your life however you want and you can do whatever you want. And I know, you are one of my beloved podcast focus group members for my podcast, Scale Your Joy, but that's like why I'm so passionate about that podcast is I want people to know that like, don't let your education become golden handcuffs of like, oh, but I went to Harvard, so I have to work in corporate America. You don't have to. You could travel around the world teaching yoga.
Right. Or like you could run a blog, or I mean like right, there are like so many interesting things that people are doing, and like that's great to see like people who I like, look more like me
Yes,
like do like take on some of those kinds of risks as well.
absolutely. So if there's something you could change about your application process, what would you change?
I would not have applied to 16 different programs. I think that I felt secure in knowing like the Art of Applying has no limitation on how many of these I can put together, right? But it was like, okay, so how many physically can I go through? And I was like, you know what? Like, let's just power this through. In hindsight, I mean, I don't know. It's like something I wish I could have done differently. I don't think I could have. I think I needed to have done the process exactly the way that I did it. But I wish I didn't apply to as many schools because it also made it a lot, because it was like I had applied to a few programs, to be honest, where I was like, I don't really want to go to this program, but let me just like put another card in. And those are the first schools that like, it's like if I don't hear from, I'm just kind of like, whatever. Or like I got waitlisted and I'm like, I'll put myself off the waitlist. And I was just like, why did I bother like applying so many programs? But I did learn a lot too, like writing all of those essays, and things like that. And that was a very reflective process in and of itself. So
Absolutely.
It's hard to say I would have gone back and changed it, but I wish maybe I had shaved off like a school or two.
Understood. What would shaving off a school or two have done? Given you more free time, or what would it have done? Saved you some money?
I think mostly just mental energy. And also because, to be honest, like I was applying to some of those schools a lot out of like my own anxiety. So I was like also fueling like some idea of like like feeling inadequate and like applying to like everywhere. So I think it's not so much the number that was problematic. It was more sort of like the feeling behind that number was not rooted in a sense of like, because I also didn't want to be overly assuming about the strength of my candidacy either. And so I wanted to like be ambitious, but also it was like, like I had like the things that I was prioritizing when I was coming into like which school am I wanting to go to. But
yeah, absolutely. Christine, you have been an outstanding, excellent client in terms of engaging with the program and also bringing your doubts and fears to us so that we can talk about them together, right? Me and you have laughed so much on all client Q&A calls when I'm just like, that's what you think, like, and it's been so good. And I have, and I know you go to the mindset calls and you do your one-on-one mindset calls as well.
Oh yeah, the writing center calls, the like weekly, I like literally have gone to all the calls.
You did the full curriculum. So like the point is not to not have the anxiety or the fear or the worries or the doubts. That's not the point, is not to have them, but to not let them fester and let them hold you back. So you did it perfectly, right? You did. That's why.
It was like as good as I was gonna do it. Yeah,
absolutely. And so let's talk about, what have you what have you learned about yourself, or how have you grown as a result of going through this process?
I think this was definitely the biggest like risk I've taken on since graduating college. And because it's also very, like I did all the work, and so I knew I was gonna get the outcome, but it was still like worst case scenario. Like I could have gotten nothing, right? Like I could have like
Mhm.
paid all the tuition and then been like, oh, like guess I got it nowhere. But
But that
makes it
didn't,
hard.
the opposite happened. You got in somewhere great with a full ride, and then we have some wait lists to navigate still.
Yes. That is honestly the biggest takeaway. It's not even just like, oh, like now I know how to navigate this application cycle, but I think it really did teach me it is worthwhile to be part of a community of people who are like willing to support you and like help you. Because I think that was a little bit sometimes I'd be like on the fence about it. I was like, oh, like is it worth it?
Yeah.
Like those kinds of things. And I was like, no, definitively it is worth it. And that was from both like the art of applying and Forte as well. Like I
Yeah,
was like,
let's talk about Forte. So I want you, Christine, if somebody's already watching this video, they maybe they're watching this because they're in Forte MBA launch and they're like, but I'm in Forte. Why would I? And this is already a lot to do. Why would I do another thing? So talk to your fellow Forte launcher who's coming up behind you about what you got out of working with the art of applying and that you complemented what you were doing in Forte.
um, I would say Forte, like I love the program. But I think I was also looking for, okay, like, but I want extra help and like extra attention. Um and it was like not very, and also this is like right when this is right before the pandemic happened
Mhm.
and everything, but I was not wholly like convinced that like just doing Forte in this like massive group setting was going to, and also yeah, so like I was not necessarily sure like, okay, like how much time are other people going to have to help me. So I guess you could say I was also hedging my bets.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, but I definitely want to expand my network. I'm like coming from the nonprofit sector, so I don't have a lot of people in my immediate
Mhm.
vicinity who's doing this. So I like definitely want to expand my network. So that was like, okay, even if I just come out of Forte with a network, like that's fine.
Absolutely.
Um, but I think also so much of the art of applying is like it's like having like people who are grounded in like level set
Mhm.
of like they've done multiple cycles, they like have a vague sense of like, is this reasonable, or like some of these feelings are not, like for me they're obviously very novel, but for people
Mhm.
who've been working with, I was like people like me or like clients like me, it's like these are concerns that would have generally been heard or like that they would have experienced themselves. And so I wanted like I was like, okay, I want committed people who are going to, because I didn't want it to be like, oh, let me just like run around like looking for help
Yeah,
about different parts of the process. It was like there was some security that I wanted in
absolutely.
I could go to.
Absolutely. So I'm pretty familiar with the Forte MBA launch program. So talk to, and I've been a guest speaker. We've been a sponsor for years. Uh, let me say what I think might have been what you got or what you were looking for out of each thing. It seems to me like Forte MBA launch was a great program for just working side by side with a lot of women applying to business school, being aware of in a top kind of bird's eye level of all the pieces that need to come together, learning about all the pieces that need to come together, being told about resources that can help you for each part, but not you. Maybe you didn't necessarily feel like there was that deep dive into like, okay, here's a resource, but actually, like, what do I do now? And then
Yeah, I
also,
mean, it's also like, what's my essay supposed to look like? What's my resume supposed to look like? Like they had, like I wanted someone who was gonna not just like, it's like, oh, like let me schedule a free 5-minute call, because it's like that's not, the feedback is not substantial, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, I was like, I'm looking to get, and also because I knew I was applying for dual degrees, and I was like, I will not have anyone to talk to, or I mean, I tried, but it's like Forte is very like business school oriented.
Mhm,
But it was like, I'm considering something a little bit different,
mhm.
which was like originally even like policy program or law school. And I was like, I don't know, like that's a whole thing in and
Yeah,
of itself. And like, let me work with some people who've also worked with dual degree candidates.
absolutely. Yeah, it
Yeah.
makes sense to me. I think if someone has the mental capacity and energy and they can get in, I think they should do Forte and management leadership for tomorrow and work with the art of applying. And I think that they'll get that all three programs could work together really well. And we have had a lot of clients do both Forte MBA launch and do the application accelerator. One thing I know is that if you do your homework in Forte MBA launch and hit some milestones, you get some fee waivers. How many of those did you receive and how many of those did you use?
Um, well, actually, a lot of the fee waivers were not applicable to the schools I was applying to.
Understood. So that's okay. That's another kind of it's like, that's a benefit, but it wasn't a benefit to you if you weren't applying to those schools.
I
Okay.
mean, I remember, I mean, I don't want this to be shady on Forte, but it was like, we talked about it with the launchers and we were like, we all thought we were going to get more
Well,
like
apparently
application
so did
fee.
I. That's why I asked you the question.
And I was like, what's up with that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so that sounds like there was maybe some sort of miscommunication or under communication because I, as a former sponsor of Forte MBA launch, thought that there were more. I thought like somebody could do their homework and get like 5 fee waivers for like top schools.
right. I mean, it was also like I could, but then also a lot of those programs that I was interested also overlapped with consortium. And
Okay,
so,
so it was
and I was like, I'm going to apply through consortium because if I could just
yeah,
throw
yeah,
my hat
absolutely.
in for a full tuition, I will do it.
Absolutely. And I'm hearing that you're really glad you did Forte, you made friends, you got a good network. Also, I just think it positions people really well and actually you should reach out to your MBA schools to receive the Forte fellowship. I would reach out to all my schools and just say, "Hey, I'm a Forte MBA launch graduate. I would like to be considered for the Forte fellowship."
So I am a Forte fellow at
Oh,
UVA Darden. So
wonderful.
I'm, yeah, consortium Forte.
Tell us what that means. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I think I'm actually wholly not certain, but I think it is something to do with being also like a liaison between Forte and
Okay,
the
that's a great.
school. And also I think just a general acknowledgement of having benefited
Yes, I
women.
think it sometimes is money, but you already got a full ride. So, but look into it because if it's money, maybe we can stack. But I was under the impression that it wasn't just a title, but does often usually come with some money.
Yes. So I think it depends on the school,
Okay.
how they want to go about that designation and title. But I do have a lot of friends who've gotten the Forte designation and money and scholarship from
Okay,
those schools.
wonderful. And so what's next for you in your application process?
I am still navigating wait lists.
Mhm.
I'm also still navigating scholarships or money for like living situation right now, or like am I eligible for need-based aid. So there's a few like of those bits that I'm still tailing out, and I'm looking more into UVA law because I am currently waitlisted there, and so I want to, I mean, I'm still
Absolutely.
on the wait list, so it's like kind of I like sent my letter being like, I'm going to attend your program if you let me in, and I've like gone to a few of their events. I haven't talked to admissions directly because they're like, we don't want you to contact us unless we contact
Okay.
you.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I won't do that. Like, I don't want you to not like me. But so I am thinking about, I mean, Kanisha will know like the extent of my anxiety. And so it's like, I am thinking about maybe I have to reapply in September.
And then I get so upset. I call it burning her house down. I'm like, why would you do that? But you mean just to law school, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's totally fine.
No,
So,
I'm not going to reapply. I'm not doing this.
so let's demonstrate to the listeners and the viewers just how much support there is. So Christine is our client. We're recording this end of March 2021, and Christine's engagement goes all the way through May 1st. So Christine, you said you're still navigating wait lists, you're still looking for scholarships, you're still going to be applying for scholarships, you're still going to be looking into, do I need to reapply to law school? Talk to us about the resources you're going to rely on. Think of as many as you can inside of the Application Accelerator that are included in your program, just being like, I could do this, or I could do this, or I could do this, or I could do this. What are all the resources that are still available to you all the way through May 1st to help you do all the things we just talked about?
Yeah. So I feel like I'm like, sometimes I'm worried. I'm like, do people think I'm just using too many of the resources? But I'm like, no, I paid for this. So like, obviously I should be using everything. The Q&A vault, which is like where you can like upload questions like static, and there are people who are navigating that. So I do have questions about, different aspects of like starting a program and all that kind of stuff. So I'll probably be asking some questions in the Q&A vault. There is a writing center call, and so that will probably be where I go for the, okay, so I'm going to readjust my personal statement, here are some changes. Also work with my consultant on it, but I've appreciated having different perspectives from people as I'm working on my writing. And also the weekly Q&A call. If I'm like, I don't know. I had a lot of feelings, like even just getting back the waitlist letters. I'm like, oh my God, like what do I do? And like, so I think even just those kinds of questions that come up, it's just been good to know that there's a standard time that I just go and talk to someone.
Yeah, you would come to the monthly call.
All right, the monthly. Yes, I failed this quiz.
You did great on the quiz. You did great on the quiz. I wanted you to just demonstrate that there are so many ways for you to get help, and those were all different people. So Christine has a consultant that she worked with on most of her applications, and then recently switched over to another person to help strategize, I think more around, actually with an MBA consultant, or is this a law school consultant you switched to?
It was joint degree. I like switched over to this person because they had
a joint degree. Okay, great. So you're able to work with one person, work with another person, no problem, smooth transition. Then the writing center call, that's one person on our team that you're working with. The weekly Q&A call, that's a different person you can come and talk to. Then the monthly Q&A call, that's me. The Q&A vault is all the consultants can answer questions, but generally 2 or 3 tend to answer the questions. So that's like 8 different people who you can turn to get different perspectives or who have different areas of expertise. And that, I just would like, if I do say so myself, that is phenomenal.
No, I think it's amazing. And I think the thing with the art of applying is like, it's not a guarantee just by paying the tuition that like a result will happen. I think for me, it was very much like, okay, like I'm going to utilize everything as much as possible. And also as like, I think the team or like different people on the team became familiar with me and like my story. It's also easier for them to help me because it is still like a recurring, there's some continuity in that relationship. So I was like, okay, like I'm gonna like do this early, do this right.
That's right. That's right. And when Christine talks about continuity in the relationship, what she means is she showed up to basically every monthly Q&A call that I ran every month. There's a monthly all clients mindset call. I know you went to many of them. There's a weekly Q&A call where you can come and bring your questions or your materials for live editing. There's the weekly writing center call where you can bring things to be live edited, watch other people get their stuff live edited. So if you come every week or every other week, like the people get to know you. So you don't just have this one consultant who knows your story. You've got 5 to 8 people who know you well, know your story well, but are different people and can give you different perspectives.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. And so when you first signed up, you said you were going to let people know your results. I'm actually going to pull up your file so I
Oh
can
no, I
remember.
actually don't remember.
Oh, great. Well, then I will pull it up and I will let you know what you said.
Oh my God.
You said that, look, hey, you were going to tell, I think oh, here we go. You said you were going to tell mom, dad, sister, and Tasfia.
Oh yeah. So um Tasvia and
Tasfia.
I had yeah, Tasvia and I had like yeah, we just had like a feast after I found out. And for mom was like, "Am I supposed to be happy?" And I was
What?
like, "Mom!"
Now that's hilarious. So is
Um,
that her being like, of course of course I'm not surprised. Am I supposed to be
I think I think it's just I think she was also just genuinely like not sure. She was like, it was like very her moment. And then um dad is dad was like has a master's degree even if it's not in the US, and so he was like very congratulatory. And I think he understands a little bit more like how competitive this process can feel. My sister is a nurse, so bless her little heart, she is working a lot. So I think for her it was also just like quiet acknowledgement.
good for you? I'm gonna go take a nap.
I know. It's like she's like, oh, red receipt, like continue on. Um,
Yeah, well, I will say that when I read your news, I was thrilled and delighted. And we didn't get to connect on the phone, but I did call you because I was so excited. I wanted to scream together on the phone because I was so happy for you. And also because I love being right. And, we had spent a good amount of time over the whole year, just or year and a half or whatever, just being like, but Kanisha, what do I do if I don't get in anywhere? And I'm like, that's not going to happen as long as you do the work and you're doing the work. And I'm just so happy to see the results turn out so good for you. And I understand that like wait lists are a challenging place to be, but just like we just talked about, we're here for you. You and I are going to talk for a little bit after your interview, and then you're going to do all those things that you said you were going to do and use all those resources.
yeah. I mean, I will also say, like, I don't think I could have even thought about doing a 4-year degree at UVA had it not been for a substantial scholarship. So actually, even though I thought I'd also finished like picking myself by like applying to even law school and MBA programs, it also turns out like, why didn't I consider 4-year programs? And it was because from the get-go, I was like, oh, that's not going to be financially
Absolutely.
feasible. And so it turns out the process also lends itself to surprises in that
Mm.
way as well.
Yes, and so yeah, the big scholarship from Darden actually opens up options. I see.
Yeah.
So now that you've gotten a full ride to a great business school, you're waitlisted at a lot of great places. What is going to change, improve, or open up in your life and or career?
I think like I think it's just like even just going to back to school and like really considering my own growth and like learning about different parts of business and like even more about different career paths that I've started to explore through the process of applying.
Mhm.
And then we'll continue to be able to do so by meeting like my classmates. And I think those opportunities are open to me, and in a way that like the additional financial burden of like, oh, like I have to go work in a certain sector after I graduate school because of this debt, like that's not as much a part of the calculation. Like if the amount of loans I will have will be the equivalent of like a car, right? Which is like an amount
That's
that people pay
amazing.
off all the time. And so um that would not that kind of mental space would have not been available. I mean, like that's even just for like the MBA program, right? And then because
Mhm.
we've like talked about like, oh, like worst case scenario, right? Like I don't get into law school by September, or like, even with the next application cycle, but it's like, okay, sure. And then I will still apply for law school again, or like maybe I won't, right? Like maybe that perspective will also change. So I think just being open to those kinds of feelings and growth, that is very much possible with like without the financial burden, and feeling very secure in my decision for the school that I'm going to as well.
Nothing like a full ride to make the decision easy or really hard, maybe. But
yeah. I think, I mean, I have friends I think who are like navigating like, oh, like no money or full ride, and like sort of where do you
absolutely. And that it's not necessarily a done deal, depending on what you're really looking for out of your grad school. So, all right, Christine, this has been wonderful. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Anything you'd like to say to the person watching this video, wondering if the art of applying, could work for them, if they should book a breakthrough call, or if they should just watch 10 more videos?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it is a very like personal decision to like use a consultant or not. But I think for me, it was very much worth it. Like I could not have foreseen how wild of an application cycle this was going to be, with like the pandemic and like a lot of people decided to go, they wanted to go back to graduate school. It's made for a really competitive year, and I could not have foreseen that. And also I would not have felt as secure in where I'm about to head as well, had it not been for also like, I absolutely know that I did the most that I possibly could at this juncture in my life to like look into where I wanted to go, who I wanted to go with. And I think, with the art of applying as well, it is, I don't know, this is obviously biased, but I do think like if you are going to work with any consultant, you should obviously work with the art of applying, because I think for me, it's not just about the transaction of like, let me get you into a school. It's just, there's like a more holistic picture of like, what is it that you're really going after, and like, what are the barriers that you've really set for yourself, to navigate in that keep you from navigating that. And I think there's a lot of honesty and genuinity in a lot of the people who find their way to the art of applying. And I think that that's like really wonderful. And it's such a big benefit to working with the art of applying. And also just no regrets. Like, I maybe could have done this by myself, could even say probably, but it along the way, it was, for me, it was like a worthwhile investment in being like, okay, like there is this resource. I know that they're going to give me an honest opinion. And I also know that they're not going to talk me out of certain things. Like every time I changed my career plan, because I changed my career plan like every 6 weeks, at no point was anyone like, that's really unreasonable, or like, why are you changing your plan like every 6 weeks? Like, get a grip. And I think that's the reality of actually how a lot of people navigate this process, like not wholly being sure, like, is this exactly what I want to do? Is this exactly where I want to go?
Yeah.
And so having a group of people, it was almost like also learning how to pick myself too. Like in the way that I was being treated as a client, it was also like kind of an exercise in, oh, this is like kind of what it looks like to also believe in myself.
That's right. Like, because we believed in you so much that it was like, oh, I guess, okay. Was it like that?
And it was like and that was like something I was also to actually bring to Forte as well, because I felt like I kind of got a sense of how to do that from the art of applying. Like I was also able to, I mean, not that Forte wasn't like very, community oriented before that either, but it's just like, I think I felt also a lot more confident in being like, okay, well, I think probably for, like, oh, like if we're navigating waitlist, like let's just, make a channel and like talk about it, or like people are
It
being
made you more a proactive member of the Forte community.
yeah, and it's like, oh, like people are being denied, and it's like this is a thing that should be okay to talk about, or like people you know, navigating different like racialized or like different, you know, like parts of their profile, and somehow being able to be very candid about that, but also supportive of people that were different from me. I could go on and on.
Yeah, this is wonderful.
Fine.
It's been wonderful, Christine. So thank you for sharing your story. Congratulations on your results so far. We're still here for you. Right now, we'll talk offline about your waitlist stuff and your scholarship stuff. I have a scholarship for you. It's a big one that I don't know if you know about it. So we'll talk about it, and you'll submit an application ASAP. And I think that your story is going to inspire people, encourage people. That same person, just like you were a year and a half ago, watching videos like After the Art of Applying somehow made itself into your awareness. And your video is going to be one of the ones that helps someone think, you know what, I'm going to take the risk and have a breakthrough call. And if that breakthrough call goes well and feels good, and I feel compelled, then I'm going to sign up and get started. And just like you said, maybe you could have done it on your own, but you just chose to do it with support and no regrets. So thank you for sharing your story. It was an honor and a pleasure.